Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, From Overspend to Oversight, Proven Ways to Control IT Costs in the City Government and Higher Education. I'm Rumi. I'm one of the co-founders of Oomnitza, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm absolutely thrilled to have three seasoned leaders with us, Steve Windsor, Allen Hammond, and Shahra Meshkaty, with us today. So today we'll be reviewing and having the panelists share how each of their organizations has transformed fragmented IT asset management into a streamlined, cost-effective, and transparent program. Before we jump in fully, let's take a look at the agenda. So we'll do some quick section on Oomnitza. We'll introduce, of course, the subject material for today. We'll introduce the panelists, and we'll get started with the discussion. We'll close with some final thoughts, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So across the whole time, you'll have access to submit your Q&A, but just want to give a heads up that the session is being recorded. You can use the Q&A button for any questions. Feel free to submit them, and towards the end of the webinar, we'll jump into the audience Q&A section and hopefully be able to answer all the questions. Chat is open for comments, so feel free to chat and interact there. And closed captioning is available if you click the CC button or the live transcript button. Just a little bit about Oomnitza. Oomnitza is a platform for modern IT asset management. We exist in an asset-centric capacity to pull data from all of your existing IT, finance, procurement, and security infrastructure and create workflows and work streams across the asset lifecycle, from the point of purchase all the way through end of life, helping you to automate some of the most common workflows in IT that are asset-centric. Our view is that the asset lifecycle is a great proxy for most IT workflows, and along the asset lifecycle, there are a number of IT work streams that touch IT, finance, security, HR, and many other teams. And in the modern enterprise, you need a system and a foundation for good asset management to service these needs of other teams. And you need to do so in a way that helps control costs, maintains operational security, and has you being always audit and compliance ready. Now let's meet today's panelists, Allen Hammond, Shahra Meshkaty, and Steve Windsor. I'm just going to actually pass the ball to Allen to introduce himself, and I'll stop sharing here. Allen, and to the rest of the panelists, could you please tell us about yourself and tell us about one headline achievement in IT asset management, how it's helped you kind of transform your business and do more with less?
Thanks, Remy. Super excited to be here and share our experience with Oomnitza. I'm Allen Hammond. I'm the IT director for the city of Pleasanton. Pleasanton is a San Francisco Bay Area city, sits just outside Silicon Valley. It's got about 80,000 people, swells up to well over 100K during the business day. We're a city, a full service city. We provide police services, fire services, library, parks, rec. We do it all. We do that with just under 500 full-time employees. And, we swell up to over 700 when you count our temps and our seasonal hires. With Oomnitza, we've inventoried about 4,000 assets. If it has an IP address, it's in the system. And that's sort of what that's sort of the look at Pleasanton. However, our headline is the single source of truth. So with us, as many have who start this journey, multiple data repositories, which all brought real inconsistent and insufficient data, not to mention all the calories we burn when we have to go look up something. And so, and now I feel like this webinar was titled with Pleasanton in mind, being called Overspend to Oversight. That describes Pleasanton perfectly. I've been here for multiple decades. That is plural. I've been blessed with having years and years and years of unlimited budget to do the things that we needed to do in IT. And that came to a screeching halt about 2 years ago. And so with that, we are dealing with a structural budget deficit. Maybe I was the reason, I don't know. But with that, it brought so much data and insight that we get from our ITAM now that has never been more important.
Amazing. Thank you, Allen. Thanks for sharing. Shahra, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I'm Shahra Meshkaty from University of San Diego. I've been at the university like Allen for over a couple decades, 25 plus years in different roles, including as faculty member in School of Business and Education, but now leading one of the wings of Central IT. Our university has about 12,000 students, and we support 3,500 faculty and staff. In our device deployment and the life cycle management primarily covers the faculty staff, although we do support the students in various forms, check out devices and whatnot. We have the two standards that we have for the university, and with the variety across the platform and the models and the user groups, adds that complexity to our procurement, inventory tracking, and life cycle management process, which our focus has been to rein in the sprawl that we have all over the campus and opportunities for cost saving, but more so trying to bring everything under one big umbrella so that we could count on our reliable resources that we have. And the headline achievement, there are so many, but having that visibility into assets and users and applications has been huge for us. And I'll stop here because we're going to be talking about this for a little while longer. But that's been the biggest win for us, that visibility into the things that we have across the campus.
Awesome. Thank you, Shahra. And last but not least, Steve.
Hi, glad to be here. I'm Steve Windsor with the City of Dublin, California. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer here. We are part of the Tri-Valley Cities, which is in the East Bay of the Bay Area with Allen. So worked with Allen before. We actually got into Oomnitza with Allen's help and guidance. And I would say that where we are as a city with assets a short time ago, we were in chaos with our asset management where we did not have a good visibility into it. So I think we're at the clarity from chaos stage where we just needed something to get a good centralized handle on all of our assets so that we, along with finance, would know what we have and what we have to save to replace. So I think that sums it up in a nutshell. We're early on in our Oomnitza journey, which I think is good for the people who are investigating you right now, because we have some insight into the ramp up. And I think Allen and Shahra are a little further ahead than we are, but we're looking forward to using it for more things.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. And clarity from chaos. If you ever, you definitely have a second career in marketing if you ever want it. So that's great. Let's jump into some of the questions. I think one of the things the audience was curious about was, when did you first realize your team didn't have a reliable end-to-end view of your IT assets? And was there a tipping point? Was there an event? Did something go wrong? What made you think you really needed to do this? Steve, maybe I'll work backwards. I'll go to you first.
So I think for me, it was when we were trying to go get what's called ISF money in government internal service fund, which is finance is supposed to bank up money to replace assets over time. And they can only do that if they know the assets exist. So when we went to get money to replace things, I think a little background, I've only been in government for about 8 years. I was in nothing but startups before that, all around the Bay Area. And we had to prove out everything we wanted to do for money, and money was always tight. So I was used to that kind of thing, but we had when I got into this position, we had no visibility into what we owned as assets and where they were in their life cycle. And when finance pulled out the document that they had, that they thought we had, it was wildly out of date. So they had not been saving up money to replace things. And we were faced with asking for money after the budget cycle, which is a big no-no. in government. You go through a big 2-year budget cycle, and you have to run it by the city council, and it has to be set in stone. And then, you know, people started asking to get computers replaced and servers replaced and printers replaced and all these things, and where there was no money allocated to that. So we had to go back and do special budget, which is, I will never do that again, because it's painful to go ask daddy for money or mommy. And, you don't want to do that. So I think that what we started to do was we did a quick physical inventory, not quick, but we did a physical inventory, stuffed everything into what I call a bucket, right? We used spreadsheets at that time. And we still weren't able to keep track of things well. So that left us in this chaos state where we were constantly having to try to figure out where assets were and prove out the ability to buy more assets. So we needed a solution. And I went to my good buddy, Allen, who's always, you know, a couple years, maybe 10 years ahead of me in terms of deploying solutions to problems. And he was like, go look at Oomnitza and talk to you guys. And that's what we did.
Awesome.
I can go next.
Please.
Yeah. Our tipping point was we had a system in place, an inventory system that was built over at least 15 years ago. And at the time, it was the greatest thing that we brought to campus, because we didn't have, prior to that, we didn't have anything. And just thinking about, you know, over the course of 25 years, a lot of things in IT environment has changed. So the product was great, but then it stopped working for us. They were purchased and repurchased, and companies took over, but the development completely stopped. So it was no longer doing the work that we needed to drive the growing needs for our campus. And then also combined with that was we had a lot of legacy systems that were kind of commingled and trying to get us the asset information that we needed across the campus. And again, we were growing, and the complexities were added, integration with a lot of things that we had. So we were using many systems that were not really talking to each other too well. And also, depending on who we asked, we were getting different kind of a report and data, and we were looking at the end of the day to present that to say finance, and we go, well, why is this number not matching with that? The budget person was giving us something different than the ITAM team. And speaking of the ITAM team, I also say that we didn't have a real formal ITAM team to begin with in this mix of the process. So that was also a tipping point for us in this mix after we kind of stopped and paused and said, okay, what do we need right now? We need to have a system that is more modern, that could give us, you know, the information that we need, the reporting that we need. But then we also needed, as Steve said, we really had to take a good look at the entire university, and that's kind of daunting, but we had to look at that and kind of pause and say, let's do a physical inventory. And physical inventory is kind of nutty and crazy to go across all the buildings and you know, nooks and crannies at the university to try to find out who put what, you know, in a drawer that we didn't even know that's been sitting there for 5 years. So they had to do that physical inventory. And with, I think, mix of all of those was really the tipping point for us to know that, oh, we really got to look into something better. So that's where we started searching and landed with Oomnitza.
That's awesome, Shahra. And honestly, the tipping point you just mentioned is what I personally hear most often is, you know, we had an inventory, but the data didn't line up with the 3 other systems that kind of know something or other about assets. And ultimately, if your inventory is a static list of stuff coming from like a single source or even 2 sources, it just becomes another data silo in a sea of existing silos, right?
Yeah,
So,
hey, Ramin,
yeah.
to give a little context to the situation that we were in as well. Whereas Pleasanton and Allen are a full service city, we are a big contract city where we contract out our facilities, we contract out our police department, which but we're responsible for buying equipment for them. So that gave us another level of obscurity between departments and different entities, where we had to coordinate with them to figure out what of our assets they thought they had that they thought were their assets. And so we ended up having to go back and forth and negotiate and say, no, we bought all these for you in XYZ, but you have no proof of that, right? So
Right.
we're responsible for refreshing all those people and keeping track of them, but we had no insight into them and no oversight of their stuff. So this has helped us get control of that as well.
Very cool. Yeah, and again, very similar, right? We see that across the board all the time. You're responsible for everything, but everything lives in silos. You have no actual oversight or intelligence on this stuff that you're meant to support. And that shows up in a lot of ways. It can, I mean, in your world, Steve, as a CISO, that can show up as kind of bad security analysis and potential exposure of your attack surface. But obviously, it also shows up poorly when you go sit with finance to ask for more budget or a justification for refresh, but you don't have the actual supporting data behind it, right?
Yeah.
Um, I guess, Alan, how were you managing assets before? I mean, Steve and Shara kind of told us their story. How were you managing your assets beforehand? Were you using another tool, a platform, and what were some of the biggest limitations in actually getting work done?
Yeah, our walk with the Oomnitza started 5 years ago. So we kind of have it figured out. We're in a much better place, but I still have the scars from those battles of years ago on how we did do that, and so they're fresh in my mind. You know, in our journey, it really started even 10 years ago, because we did have we had an ITSM system. I mean, what IT shop doesn't? You have it in there, but you're talking about a legacy system that had many shortcomings. Among them was customer experience. So the service desk part of it was woefully inadequate, and it was starting to show and reveal itself. And 10 years ago, we pivoted to improving ourselves there. We thought first and foremost, we had to raise our level of responsiveness and quality of service to our users. And that brought us to a Zendesk. So those who are familiar with Zendesk or platforms like that, it has its core competency in the customer experience, and it leaves all those other things that you'd probably find in an ITSM stack to other solutions. And it lined up with my thinking, and that was I want to get best of breed. I want to get the best of breed of CX. I want to get the best of breed of ITAM and all the other things that I need in that stack. And if that solution that we're looking for integrates, well, there you go. 10 years ago, that's the world we lived in, where things started building out APIs and people stayed in their lanes of competency and allowed you to go out and get the best of solutions. And oh, by the way, they talk to each other. So I wasn't finding that with Zendesk until I asked them. I go, hey, what do you guys use? And they said, oh, we use Oomnitza. And first of all, you thought that might be a typo, but and then you said, no, there's a company called Oomnitza, and it has been fantastic ever since. We onboarded so quickly. The integration into that system has been phenomenal, which I'll speak to a little bit later, but because I haven't answered your question yet, Remy. And that is, so, and I'm probably speaking to some people out there. We had a horrible financial system back then. I would not trust it for any purchasing data. So I used Evernote. So imagine that. You have a finance system where you keep track of your invoices, but I was using Evernote to find out purchase information. We use things like PDQ and Landsweeper to kind of allow us to collect and find out what assets were on the network. We all have MDMs, so that's a different repository of your mobile devices, be it
Mhm.
phones, tablets, and so that data was just spread out everywhere. So, example I like to give is, 5 years ago when somebody put a ticket in and they're talking about their computer having some problems, and we would think, oh, okay, well, let's check on the warranty of that computer. Where would we find that? Well, that's in the spreadsheet of our replacement plan. We know when all those PCs were bought. That PC was bought in 2005. Okay, well, it's 2008. Still don't know if it's under warranty or not. Okay, well, now we go into Evernote. We look for the serial number. So you can see all the calories that are burned just to find out when an asset's warranty is up or not. And that was kind of a tipping point, was finding out that we had to go to 3, 4, 5 different places to find data and get insight on an asset. The other, as we started seeing, and this has become more and more of an issue, is as we go through our annual risk assessments for cybersecurity and our internal controls for financial audits, as well as, you know, compliance audits, as well as those risk assessments, that's like the number one thing that they ask for now is give us an inventory of your servers. What version of this do they have, you know? And man, I could never be more prouder and happier than just, you know, in a minute or two, just dump out a report that would have took a whole weekend to gather that data previously. So you can call that a tipping point as well.
That's awesome. And we hear that more and more, right? Again, the data lives in silos and all these other tools. Each one has a little bit of context, but not the full picture. If I could just bring it together, I'd have so much more intelligence. And that's where the kind of the genesis of Oomnitza was really built on. So, Shahra, you covered it a little bit, but do you have any other further comments on what your environment looked like before? I mean, it seems like it was a dispersion of tools and spreadsheets as well.
Yes, yes, indeed. I think everything Alan said or Steve said applies to the university environment too. We had, again, this sprawl of computers all over, and not just computers, printers, and other devices and accessories and all that. It was all over, and we just did not have any way to just rein them all in and know exactly where things are. And then we were asked by different schools in the different divisions, do you know how much we're spending on computer for School of Business or law, and how does that differ from School of Nursing that is a smaller budget? Finance was asking us that, and we were just not able to give them the data that we felt comfortable with. But I think by importing and moving away from all the legacy information that we had, that was also based on so many different applications, we had to utilize the web system and then create a database behind it, and then rely on so many other resources with and we are actually, Steve, we are like right along with you. We're a year and a half into Oomnitza's experience. So I'm not as seasoned as Alan is with his experience, but we're enjoying it because it's bringing everything into the mix, and it's giving us that, that 360 view of things that we're able to do a lot more with less.
That's amazing. And in the spirit of doing more with less and some of these kind of financial questions, I guess, Alan, how do you maintain transparency and accountability in your IT spend and tracking while also not letting it bog you down while remaining agile?
Yeah, transparency and trust, those are words that's used often. And for us, I don't think the words really come true when you add in credibility. And so for us, Oomnitza has been that credibility, because now we can produce that source of truth. It is in a system that doesn't appear as if we're just out looking and hunting and finding data. It is the data. And not only is it the data, and we can provide nice reports showing, what the spend is, what our useful life on those assets are. We give other people access to the data as well. So it's like, there it is, go get it. We're not fudging any numbers here. Like I said earlier, here in Pleasanton with our structural budget deficit issues we're dealing with, the idea of being in the state of good repair is been never more true, and that is finding those dollars, or what that dollar amount is, to be in the state of good repair. A spreadsheet can tell you what you should be spending or what that spend is, but it doesn't really reveal the actual true cost that you might have. And so for us, Oomnitza has been able to do that for us. And I have some other things in my mind that I'll share later. But when you have a reliable system like that, oh, by the way, you let other people access, I can't think of a better way to show transparency and trust on that. Because,
That's awesome.
I'm sorry, because it's backed up by other data too. I mean, the purchase data is right in there. None of that. This isn't stuff we're just pulling out of the air.
I was going to ask, how long did it take you to build that trust? Obviously, um, you know, with a new system in your environment, you don't necessarily want to just open it up and open it loose to everyone. I'm biased, but I think we have some of the best role-based action, access and controls out there, and we have a really configurable way to handle roles and permissions. But how long did it take you to just want to open the system up to other teams to come in and pull reports and get the info they needed?
So that is actually something that is even still in progress. So you're right. It does take a little bit because you want to fine tune it. You don't want people editing the data. And we don't allow that. And we have different roles and profiles of different people and what they need or should be seeing. And so our work in progress with that is now opening it up to management analysts in different departments outside of just finance. Now, I'd like to think that I always had trust and credibility among my colleagues, but sometimes when you produce a report, you get that raised eyebrow and you're wondering, okay, is that number sort of tilting one way to allows you to do X, Y, and Z? But no, the data is the data. It reveals the truth in terms of what our spend is going to have to be in that state of good repair.
That's great to hear. Maybe Steve, over to you. How do you maintain transparency and accountability in your IT fund?
One is dead on. I mean, you create trust relationships in executive teams where people either trust your word or they don't. But sometimes when there are limited resources and you're the one who can back it up with real data and very accurate data, you're the person who gets money versus someone who says we need this, but they don't have an idea how to back it up. So I think we've got a very good, and as Allen said, we know when we bought it, we know how much it costs, we know how long it should live. We can produce a report like that now, whereas before we could not. And not only that, we haven't gone to the extent of letting other departments into it yet. So we're kind of that silo of this is what we have, this is what we need. You can go ahead and say approve my budget or not, but then we have to talk about what you're asking me to do. And so I have negotiating power now, right? And you don't want to say you want the team to work as a team, but to a certain extent, when somebody asks you hard questions and says, "Hey, we're in a budget situation, what is real that you really need to replace?" And you just hold up, this is what's real. This is what we've spent all this time doing physical inventories and buying software to do this and coordinating with departments to get all this information. This is what's real. And this is what departments are asking me to replace. So we can say, I'm not going to replace it, but then you also have credibility then. I realize you have this equipment that you want to replace. This is the budget that they will give me. I cannot replace all your equipment. I can see it here, but I can't replace it all. And so then what ends up happening is you get more departments on your side to go and pressure finance and your city manager's office to say, look, I have to have these things replaced for my department. And they're saying that there's not, you know what I mean? There's a negotiation dance that goes on in every organization. And if you're the one with the data and everything wired tight, you're probably the one who's getting money.
That makes a lot of sense. Shahra, maybe over to you. When you're operating in a structural deficit, how do asset insights help you advocate for more smarter and more defensible spending?
Yeah, just to something that Steve said, to be able to, with more accurate data that we have, at the university, we kind of that reliability in our system, the central IT, and partly because we're also legacy people in there for many years, so the trust is already kind of built, that they know that we're giving them the best source of truth that we had until we justified the reason to get Oomnitza, to give us more accurate information. But other things get revealed in the process, like over the course of the years. We were just helping groups and units and departments and making favors and going through things. And we didn't know that we were doing all of that and what would that amounts to. Until we brought it in, and then we noticed, oh, for goodness sake, we have helped this division and unit with so many computers that we're not budgeted for. And we just got anecdotally, we will call your dean and call the VP and say, can we do this? Should we do this? And we've been doing that, but we had no records of it to kind of compile, and because it was happening over the course of a few years. For instance, for adjunct faculty, we do not provide computers, but then they would make cases and say, well, this is a full-time adjunct who's been here for many years, so they do need to have this need, and we go review the process, and we've been doing that, but we're not budgeted for those. So then at the end of the year, we would come red for certain things, so we needed to justify and say why we're red, because we've overspent, and for a good reason, because of the approvals that came through. So I think it gave us that credibility, having the data again to show that it's not just, we're not overspending, it's based on all these requests that came through the years. But another thing that I wanted to add to this is that the asset insight also helped us to do smarter allocation of existing resources. And it wasn't just, the structural deficit in terms of the money, but it helps us in so many other ways. It helps us to kind of know the need, where we need to replace certain things, or do we need to extend it, or do we need to consolidate things? And I think that was also huge in our case. We found out again, this purchasing that we were doing for so many areas that we needed to account for, and we were not presenting that data the right way. For instance, after looking at the data usage in a Mac and PC lab, 50 computers, a brand new building that we put up, and all the deans said, oh, we want to have a mixed environment. Well, after a year, and we're new to Oomnitza, we pulled the data and we go, wait a minute, only the faculty members from certain departments are being scheduled there because they favor that lab, and certain software are being used in that place, and the Mac usage is quite underutilized. And so we had to pull that data and go to the people who have been requesting for Mac and say, this is not working right, and this is not the right, use of resources. So we were able to make that switch and make that one lab completely be a PC lab. And that ended up, that wasn't about the spending more, but it was about optimizing what we already had to better serve the instructional needs of the area. And again, with those data that we're presenting to them, they like it because now we have the proof right there. It's not, again, us or my team talking about certain things and certain needs of the area. So those were some other wins for us in terms of the, how we use Oomnitza.
Cool. And are there other examples of times where you've had Oomnitza help you either justify a purchase or delay one with confidence?
Many times. Let me see. Delaying, yes. We had, for instance, we constantly do building renovations, and the two teams were not talking to each other, of course. The renovation was happening, and in the meantime, the team, the asset management team, was ordering computers for a Linux lab. And we were able to stop that, because if we had done that, the renovation of the building was going to happen, and most likely those computers would have arrived and would have sat in a storage collecting dust. Whereas by intercepting this with the right data and showing that we should not be doing this at this time and having the systems coordinated and talk to each other, we avoided having replication of resources that we would have had to either put it in a temporary spot for a year and doubling the work after a year, whereas we extended the Linux lab that could very well be extended for another year. Of course, you know, if there were any computer that we needed to replace, if they came to the age, we would have done that. We had done that, but this prevented us from just duplicating the work, whereas the delay really helped us hugely. And that life cycle of the computer, we don't have it coming in the 5-year cycle with 1 year sitting in a storage. So that
You
was
know,
another example that we liked.
I'd like to add a little bit to Shahra's, and I'm sure we all have had this, and that is getting that service desk ticket where somebody, you know, that person who likes to have a new iPhone or a new PC every couple of years, who tell us that they've had it for 7 or 8 years. And so not only do you have insight on the purchase history, but the connectivity into our service desk, that we can show all the tickets associated with that asset. And if there's not an abundance of evidence that tells us that we need to replace that asset, we just move on and tell that person, go see us in a couple of years. And so it's nice to have that insight for things as simple as that.
That's awesome. That's funny. I mean, we all want new devices, though. I get it. I feel the pain. Steve, how about you? Have you used some of the asset insights to help you advocate for smarter and more defensible spending?
So I think that where we're at, and this goes back to some of our chaos, is that the same as Alan said, which is people will come to you and say, oh, this thing, I need a new one. And, you know, you're not scheduled for a new one for a couple of years. And we did not have that insight. So what we ended up doing was, before this, we would do all of our ISF spend at the beginning of the fiscal year, partly because I wanted to use the money before somebody said, hey, do you really need that money? We need to take it back and put it over here. And so I spend money, like when I have it, we're going to spend it so it's there. But that means we would have it in inventory, but we would have it nowhere in inventory. We had a procedural problem where they weren't unboxing things. So we would just give things out when people would ask for them. We would say, okay, now we have this stock of monitors, let's say, sitting in a room. Somebody would say, my monitor is doing X, Y, and Z, and now I need a new one. We would give it to them, but there would be no insight into it. I think now that we've got everybody tied to assets, we have much better insight into how long they've had that asset, at least at a minimum. So if you've only had a monitor for a year and you're asking for another one, you know, we're going to go look and see if it's damaged or if you can still survive with that one. I think that has been, like I said, we're at the beginning of automation and our journey of making the tool more useful and valuable to us. But just from a minimum standpoint, procedurally changing the way we received assets and unbox them and inventory them right away and asset tag them right away has stopped us from having a lot of problems with asset inventory and things maybe going missing that we had no idea where they were from then on.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can say, look, this is where it is. This is where it's supposed to be. This is when it's supposed to be refreshed. And when someone can't find it, then we also have a trail to say, well, what did you do with it? You know, this is the last point at which we show where it was. What happened from there? And usually it'll be a director saying, well, we moved this person from this building to this building. And it's always Parks, because Parks has all these different facilities. So they, you know, we moved this person from this building and they took their laptop with them, but didn't take their monitors. I'm like, no. That's not the way it works. So we had to procedurally reset everyone's expectation from the Wild West show that they were used to and into when you move a person, you will fill out a ticket and you will tell us that they're moving at minimum. And we will tell you what assets they need to take with them or leave, and there will be new assets in that location. And that has helped a lot with this problem of we ended up having to do another physical inventory about a year after we did the first one, just to reset everyone. And when these things happen, so I have a tool now that I can use with the city manager and say, here's what we're spending money on. Here's what I'm spending IT time on. Right now, I'm going to dedicate a person for 2 or 3 months to do a physical inventory because nobody listened to the procedure that we have in order to do that. So then she can go and talk to director level people and say, this is the procedure for IT. You need to not break it. And I don't have to do that job. I mean, because IT is IT. People like to vilify us in terms of being authoritarian, but then we have to be responsible for everything that there is, right? I can flip the script now and use different level of people to get things done that need to get done. So I think we're in a very good spot to get more value out of what we're doing with Oomnitza. We already do some automation. I know the next thing coming up is automation. And we already do some automated import from CDW and from Dell. And the information, as soon as we buy something, all the information for those orders just goes in there already. We don't even have to enter it. So we already know that we have it. And then once it gets here, we just match it up with a packing slip and boom, it goes into inventory and we're ready to go. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that.
That's awesome, Steve. I mean, that really speaks to having the right oversight and clarity of the whole asset lifecycle. So you're getting that CDW and Dell order data, purchase prices, purchase dates, serial numbers flowing into your system before ever even receiving the assets, right? So it makes it way easier to really start automating and orchestrating the whole process of the lifecycle. And that probably helps do things like set refresh dates automatically based on the purchase date and so on. So it's really the start of the life cycle for you. It sounds like you've really nailed it.
Mhm. Ramin, can I add something to what Stephen and Alan said? The flip side
Absolutely.
of that, which is what we also have, where faculty say or staff say, I need another monitor, or my monitor broke, or my computer, and it's 4 years is not up, and they want a new computer, which we have now the data to prove it. That no, have you had anyone in the IT to look at the computer that you're complaining about, and why didn't you let us know? Because under the warranty, we could have sent it back to Lenovo or Apple to change it, and you didn't. And after a year and a half, you're saying. Then sometime it happens because they order a computer and they want the other platform. They order Mac and they decide to choose PC and vice versa. But we have the flip side of that scenario is we have faculty in particular who love the computer that they're working on and they don't want to refresh it, even though with the free refresh that there's a fight because of the security patches that we're unable to do, or they connect it to an instrument in, say, in science, and it's running Windows 7. And we're not able to make any changes because they're not letting us know that that device is there previously. Now, again, with the visibility, we see that there is a device running Windows 7. Let's go there and talk to those people and figure out why, or the faculty member, why do you not want to change and refresh your computer that we're going to be providing you with a better, faster, more modern computer? And sometime to their note is that where they're going on sabbatical or they're publishing something that they don't want to be interrupted. And that's totally understood. But with our refresh cycle of 5 years, in the classroom 4 years, we don't want any longer to have computers that are 8, 9, 10 years old that people are running and, exposing and having, security breaches that we've all shared those. So that's the flip side. So it's either having the new ones that they request or ones that do not want to give up their old devices. So now we can tell who's doing what.
That makes total sense. Um, I guess, Shara, to you, are there other examples where process automation has helped you in your asset management journey to either deliver better savings, a more secure environment, or better service to your end users and the various teams you support?
Yes, absolutely. Having access again to data, and again, we're novice, we're new to this, but we're finding out new stuff every day. And actually, the credit goes to my team that every day they bring new features and functionalities that we can do. But being able to forecast and our refresh cycle, that alone has been a huge time saver for planning purposes. And leveling out the workload of the staff has been huge. At times we have, due to the refresh cycle, say we have hundreds of computers coming in, say next summer. And we looked at that and we said, well, we don't need to burden the team to have everything happening at the same time. Why don't we spread it out and delay this process for this existing lab, or fast track something so we're able to spread it out and be able to do a much better planning, again, not overwhelming the team, and one mass computer that's going to come to campus. So that's been huge for our team. Was that the automation part, or I was just rambling on something else?
No, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, the automation part, again, the workflows, I have to give credit to Oomnitza for the workflows, and the reporting and the workflows that has been created has been huge. Time saver for different groups. For our budget person always is talking about, the tighter inventory that we're looking at right now is allowing her to control a lot of losses and be able to save money for the university. Again, we have lost, damage, a stolen computer, and that's a whole new different thing that we deal with. And that has been a huge help for us because now everything is within one system instead of dealing with, again, emails and creating, multiple tickets to go to. We use Salesforce for our ticketing purpose and doesn't work that well. So that's why we were removing a certain kind of features and functions into Oomnitza so we could control it under one umbrella. But it's also the automation for, say, our ordering of computers. We're now bringing in, and that storefront, we're building it into Oomnitza. It's not completed and done, and that is to consolidate, again, from the website and email and Salesforce and other applications that we were using to bring it all within Oomnitza's environment. And I'm looking forward to completion of that, which is going to happen in a month. And that's going to allow our CRP, computer replacement program, to all be consolidated within Oomnitza. So faculty can go direct, faculty, staff, anyone can go directly into that system and place their order. They get notifications 60 days ahead of time and multiple, reminders. So there is no way for them to say that they have not seen this email or I forgot to order it, because it's right in their face. So it's automating that process for us so we can stay on top of the order. So, proper scheduling and coordination with our team. So that's been the automation, and asset management that's been working for us within this short period. And after 5 years, I will be speaking a lot more about our experience.
That's awesome. Thank you, Shahra. We're super proud of the workflow engine and how extensible it is. So really enjoy the nice words. Thank you. Maybe just one more question, because I know we're running fairly short on time. Alan, can you share an operational change that's delivered unexpectedly big results? I know we were chatting about this before, and you had some to share there.
Yeah, I would just add on to Shahra's comments about workflows. So for us, I don't think it's any single operational change. This is one of those with workflows. It sort of reveals the savings of all the indirect costs that we face with. I have IT professionals that are acting as admin assistants, chasing down systems that are being offboarded or cell phones that are being deactivated. There's just so many of these hidden costs and shadow operations that occur that don't get captured in terms of the time involved to take action on that. So that these are all death by 1,000 cuts. And with the workflows for us, which, oh, by the way, thanks to Oomnitza for that, but I'll go even further and give shout outs to my CSMs, Ava Desari and Natalie Miller before them. They are phenomenal. I'm the one with the sort of the harebrained ideas. It'd be nice if we could, and boom, they just do it. And so the workflow thing has been tremendous, and it's really allowed my team to actually be IT professionals again.
I'm going to Slack them right now and say that you gave them a shout out on a live webinar. Shahra, it sounds like you might have had something to add.
One of the things that my team wanted to make sure that I share, because they're so stoked about it, is the ability to use their iPhone app and the workflows that allows them to complete the scanning of the physical inventory. That's been just change maker for them. It's saving so much time because they're all around the campus, and with use of their phone, they're able to do something that they couldn't do before. So thanks, Oomnitza, for providing that to us.
That's awesome. Okay, maybe just in a sentence or less, to all three of you, is there one piece of advice you'd offer your peers that are facing similar fiscal constraints and want to mature their IT asset management process? Shahra, maybe to you.
I'd say clean up your asset data, even if it feels daunting, because like Steve said, we started doing our cleanup with the physical inventory and then kind of reconciling it with our digital inventory and trying to figure out the gaps and the holes that if you do that, that's a huge thing. I think I advise for that. And then making sure that you have the right team, like Alan said, those are smart folks that you have within your environment. Those are going to be huge driver of this change for you. So because with Oomnitza, you can uncover other opportunities and unlock values that you didn't even know. For us, that's been the case, that we're doing so many things that we didn't even know that we could do with Oomnitza. But now we can. It's that consolidation of resources. So I'd say, yeah, just start working on it early, and try to also engage with your cross-functional team earlier on as you start this journey.
Makes total sense. Steve, what does more mature IT asset management look like for you and your organization in a year from now?
I think I would echo Shahra's statements about physical inventorying. It's such an in-depth process and so time intensive with resources that once you do it, my recommendation is you get an ironclad process in place for people to be onboarded and offboarded and moved between departments, such that you never have to do that physical inventory again, because it is an expensive thing to do. And just from a personnel staffing standpoint and from a pain standpoint, it's mundane and monotonous work to go and uproot it's not only the person who's doing it too. What I would put to people, the cost of you doing a physical inventory also interrupts other people that are trying to do their job while you're trying to, unless you're going to inventory after hours at night, right? You're going to interrupt everybody in the organization, go to their desk 5-10 minutes and stop them from working. And so put a cost to that for people so that they can see, well, yes, software costs money, but so does interrupting people, because we have no good software to keep track of things. And I was able to do that very thing after we ended up with the second one. And it's very disruptive to do a physical inventory and very labor intensive. But then once you put a process in place, you have to put teeth to it so that people are not allowed to do things. And there are consequences for that in our organization now. Is you don't move things around on your own. Or we put you in that little silent IT list where you call and we have Alan knows.
Ours is not so silent.
Oh, we're at lunch. Yeah, we're at lunch.
Steve, we're adding username and password so they can no longer, because we had that same issue where a faculty or a chair of a department just moved the entire load of computer and take it to the second floor or to another unit. But now with the username and password stuck there, they're unable, even if they move it, they're gonna have to call IT to let us know. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I want to find out how to do that. Get your CSMs on that. I'll talk to mine.
Okay. Well, I definitely want to give everyone about 5 minutes back at the end of this, both our wonderful panelists and the rest of the group that's watching the webinar. So I just want to say to Steve, Alan, and Shahra, thank you so much for your insights today, your actionable strategies. Thanks for sharing with us and for taking time out of your day to do so. I think what we've heard is clear. As budgets tighten in city governments and higher education, IT leaders aren't just cutting costs. You guys are driving smarter operations, and you're doing it by consolidating your vendors, you're eliminating redundant software, you're aligning to the full life cycle and financial planning like we talked about. And I'm glad that we're part of your journey and giving you this asset oversight to drive better outcomes for your various organizations. So thank you so much for joining us today, and hope to see you all soon. Please get in touch with us at oomnitza.com or anywhere where we're engaging online.
pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.